Welcome to today's finance series. It is a great pleasure to connect with you this week. Today, I would continue my series on cost, with a focus on cost cutting, the importance and the risks posed with respect to cost cutting. Follow me as I go into this round of presentation. A lot of businesses in this time and age are very particular about cost cutting. Not about strategy, but there are certain things that you need to know and take into consideration when implementing cost cutting as a strategy in your business. Let's even look at what this cost cutting entails. It is a measure that is implemented to reduce expenses and improve profitability. Companies implement cost cutting measures during time of financial distress or economic downturn. And a lot of businesses believe that when they implement this strategy, it will help them to improve profitability in the near future. Now, cost cutting includes laying off of employees, closing some facilities, downsizing offices, streamlining the supply chain, etc. Now, when embarking on cost cutting, it is important to note that this strategy classifies costs as good costs or bad costs. And there is a need for you to analyze these costs and actually classify them into these buckets. As part of your cost-cutting strategy, it is very important to note that you should cut costs in moderation because it may put you in a position where you would eventually incur more costs. And I would explain to you as we go ahead. Now let's look at an example. I've seen a company that says, I want to cut costs, and they decided to lay off staff. Now, the estimated savings from that exercise was 3 million naira. But in less than 8 weeks, we could see the departments already asking for new staff to replace the ones that were laid off, to also do the job of the ones that were laid off. By the time the company engaged in recruitment process, they realized that the cost of labor has gone up, and the amount that would be incurred with respect to this new labor or this new recruit staff would be higher than the 3 million that they had saved from the cost-cutting exercise. Now, do you think the company has implemented the right strategy? Do you think the company analyzed this present situation at that time and identified the appropriate strategy to help become more profitable? I'll leave you to think about that. As we go ahead, let's look at good costs and bad costs, as well as the risks that is posed by cost-cutting strategies. Let's take it a step further and look at good costs, bad costs, and the risks that cost-cutting strategy poses on a business. What is a good cost? Good cost relates to costs that focuses on growth or that impacts the growth of a business. So they relate to value-adding activities that contribute directly to a business proposition, whether customer-based or product-based. Now, good costs are capabilities that support and help to differentiate a business to achieve its growth goals. Examples of these would include investments in technology implementations to reduce the process time, prompt decision making, and also improve customer services. What I'm saying in essence is, as a business, before you cut costs, you need to identify those items that are growth driven within the business. What are those costs associated with them? Are these the kind of costs you would like to cut? I think the answer should be no. Now let's look at bad costs. Bad costs are those costs that do not align with the overall growth strategy of the business. So they do not match with your growth strategy, and these are costs that when you look at them, you see that it actually relates to wastage of resources. So as a business, what are those costs that are not helping you to be optimal? Those costs that are actually relating to waste of resources. These are the costs that you should focus on when you're cutting costs. Let's look at the risks posed by cost cutting. Cost cutting without careful planning and execution will definitely lead to negative consequences such as lower quality, employee turnover, in fact high employee turnover, customer dissatisfaction, and even possible legal issues. So in summary, what I'm saying is you need to identify your good costs and bad costs before implementing your cost-cutting strategy. You must also know that strategic cost-cutting or strategic cost reduction first entails identifying, determining and focusing on what really matters to your company, to your customers in today's environment. I do hope that this information has been very helpful, and I hope that you've gotten one or two things with respect to cost-cutting strategies and how to go about this in your business. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening, and do have a great one.